Hello all, welcome back to the Tech on Toast podcast. My name's Chris Fletcher and it's season 11. This season we have ZenZap as our sponsor for the Tech on Toast podcast. And if you're in hospitality, you know how chaotic managing a team can get. Don't worry, ZenZap is here to change that. Now, I've been using ZenZap for my own team at Tech on Toast, and honestly, I don't know how we've managed without it. It's a game changer for keeping everything organised. Instead of juggling endless email threads, WhatsApp groups, and random sticky notes around my office, we've got everything in one place. Conversations sorted by topic, tasks assigned and tracked without fuss, and files right at your fingertips when you need them. And for you guys in the restaurants, it's a no-brainer. The kitchen team can report supply issues in a dedicated chat. Managers can roll out new specials to the front of house instantly, and task assignments like prepping for a big event, all handled effortlessly. And my absolute favourite part, ZenZap keeps your work life separate from your personal life. No more work messages clogging up my WhatsApp, and no more 10 p.m. pings from my team ruining my downtime. It's intuitive, secure, and works on any device, so you're always connected but always in control. If you're ready to simplify your team's comms and get your evenings back, try ZenZap for free. No card needed, ZenZap.co. Go check it out. Big thanks to ZenZap. Big thanks to all of you for coming to listen. Should we get on with it? I think so. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the next episode of the Tech on Toast podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined. Are we going to say simple name? With the most simple name ever. We're going to explain simple in a minute. Eric Tiv from CrunchTime. Eric, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast.
And calling you simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll explain. There's a bit of background to that. Normally on the podcast, I struggle with people's name. I don't know what it is. I've got a bit, because I go quick, I think. My brain works faster than my mouth. I tend to struggle with names, but Eric Tiv is, that's pretty much my limit. I think I'm there.
Yeah, it's not. It's a very simple and quick name to sign. And you just do the E and then Tiv, and you're done. Yeah. Well, don't get me started on that.
Sorry,
at school, yeah.
I'm bringing back school memories of mine. And are you from the ET era or not? Was that a thing?
Yeah, I was at school. So ET came out of school, and then I just for years and years I got grief.
Phone home. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Sorry, I'm really PTSD.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
And look, before we talk about CrunchTime, tell us a little bit about you, because obviously, have you been around hospitality tech for a long time, or is this your first venture into the tech world?
Yeah, this is my first venture into hospitality tech. So
welcome.
I've been at. How come?
No, I said welcome.
Oh, welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I've been here just a little over 2 years now. And I have to say I do love it.
Yeah.
My background, well, I mean, if you take it really far back, then I have been involved in hospitality before, but not on
that's
the
always useful
when
you're selling hospitality tech.
Yeah, well, I worked in bars, obviously, when I was at college.
Right.
And I did, this was at the time when everybody was allowed to smoke, and I didn't smoke, and I was getting ill quite constantly. So I did decide I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to try and find another job. So I worked in McDonald's for...
And we forget as well, right, how those bars were smoky. Like I did smoke when I drank, basically, but I remember it being... You forget how bad it was, right?
Yeah.
Remember we used to have the non-smoking section, and then like if you were sat next to the non-smoking section, you're basically in the smoking section.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
In a pub, there wasn't I don't remember a non-smoking. So everywhere was.
No, in a pub.
Smoking.
Well, no, we used to have a family area in the Beefeater.
Oh yeah.
But that still was only like a little wall that protected you from the 80 Marlboro getting smoked around the corner.
Yeah.
So yeah. Times have changed, eh? Probably for the better.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
and you were off to McDonald's after that.
Yeah, so I was off to McDonald's after that, and then I was doing like the first week in the back of the house, on the grill, which I loved. And then they put me it was literally the first day they put me front on the tills, and there was an indie band on at the local night spot. And all my college friends were coming in to all. I quit and I went back to the smoky pubs.
Oh God! Wait, McDonald's is cool though. As in, well,
you know what? That's changed as well.
Yeah,
it has changed because it wasn't back then. But
see, my kids, I'd love to work there. I mean, one of them's working at Pizza Pilgrims, the one that's old enough to work, but the other two, I think they'd work there and they'd in a heartbeat. Yeah, good training, good money.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a good career path there as well. So there's it's definitely changed.
I think it definitely. I think QSR or that kind of side of the business, that quick service restaurants and the fast food, as they used to call it, I suppose, has really taken a bit. It's much like Wingstop. All these guys now who Five Guys, all these guys who do really. they're really elaborate in the way they present themselves. Now it's very different to what it was back then, when it was very much, if you're fat, you eat there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed. I mean,
it's probably still that case as well. Anyway, and tell us about CrunchTime, because CrunchTime is, give me your best pitch for CrunchTime, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay, all right. Oh my God, my best pitch.
Well, a pitch.
Yeah, well, let's call it a pitch. Yeah.
If marketing are listening, this is just one of his many pitches.
So, CrunchTime, particularly here in the UK and on the international side, because that's really what I was employed to do here. We've got a different team, and the product offering is slightly different in the US. But here, predominantly, we are focused on bringing technology to scale, so that you can, the idea and the premise behind it is that you've all got a great store or a great location somewhere, and it's elevating all of your locations to be at that level. Now, in reality, we're looking at bringing them all up to a higher level than that. But if you can just imagine, what would your portfolio of locations look like if everybody was performing at the top level? And that's what they do. So they use the technology to be able to get insights and visibility in real time of what's actually going on, and report it in a way that you can get alerts, you can look at data, you can very easily drill down into regions or specific locations and find out what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong, learn from the best, and then sort of push that learning across into all the other locations. And I mean the two core areas that we do that are inventory management, sort of kind of the back of house, and at the front of house, sort of what we call operations execution, so like digital checklists.
Wow. And do you sit amongst all the other products then, or do you kind of own the inventory part, or do you plug into other suppliers?
So inventory is, this is something else I've learned from being in the business for a couple of years now. Inventory is different when you're speaking to different businesses that deploy inventory.
Yes.
So what I'm talking about is we don't do EPOS, but everything that comes from EPOS comes into us.
Yes.
We manage everything, and then we manage an integration to your suppliers. We manage an integration to your ERP, and obviously we manage the integration to the EPOS, and then we do everything that's kind of in the middle. So we have mobile applications for I'll get onto that in a moment. But we've got a mobile application for counting, receiving, which does a 3-way match on the spot. And then we got like a summary reporting, so like the highlight reports and report and analytics that's available in location, let alone the full-fledged system that is available to the senior leadership team. So that kind of that should encompass everything that you need from an inventory perspective. And I know that some organizations don't do aspects, but we do all of that. We do recipe management. You can build your recipes and have live view of costs. So for instance,
so I can build a new margarita pizza and it'll tell me how much it's going to effectively my margin's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you've got a target for your food cost percentage, you can see that live when you're tweaking with the
cool.
with the items. And the other thing about that is that when you get inflation hit a particular item, then that cascades into your entire menu.
Oh, right. So if I remember everyone's heard this story before, but I was at Prime Minister in my last job. I was on the board there, and when butter was spiraling, I remember seeing a presentation of who was the head of the factory, and he put a slide up on PowerPoint of this butter flying through the air with a cape on, and it said butter 300% up on last year. I think he was trying to make light of the fact that we were all going to close because butter obviously was in everything in pie, and I remember us having to manually do that. So what you're talking about there, manually work out the ripple effect of that increase across the whole business, because obviously then it's eaten into our costs in labour, in rentals and everything. So it was bloody difficult to do. And I think tech should be doing that, which it sounds like it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's very cool. And what with operators, everything's about speed, right? Everything's about access to, I think you just mentioned that. What did you mean by a 3-way match? You mentioned something there on the inventory.
So we're getting into the accounts bit, which is the bit where I'm like oil and water when it comes to accounts. So this is where I usually hand over to my my esteemed colleague Dara, who's not here. There's an empty chair here, so he could have been.
Here, yeah.
So this is your when you receive your items, they come in. So you've placed an order. The items come in. You have a receipt. You have an item check, and these things need to be checked off.
So it's like a variance check on what you ordered versus what was delivered versus
and what was accepted as well. Because if you get 50 cartons of milk and 3 of them have been smashed because of on the corner, and you then want to you don't want any of that erroneous stuff happening in your finance. You want to be able to sort that out before it then gets passed into your ERP. So our system has lots of different ways to be able to capture that before it then goes in. And it's the same really with counting. So you can send somebody in to do a count. They can come back. You can see a live forecast of what you should have in there.
Yeah.
And then if you're 3 million eggs over, you can kind of...
Which I'll be honest, I might have done that once. It was normally oil for some reason, or coffee. Everyone used to, not exaggerate, but oil and coffee were always like something that used to pop... In my old job, college shows, we used to do weekly stock takes, and that was a big thing. Why have you got so much oil? I think people used to... I mean, there's about inflation, and when you talk about inflation, there's an internal inflation occasionally from some employees who might want to expand their stock. How do you deal with that? Because I'm not calling every person out here, but it is a thing, and the people, sometimes it's by fear, right? People get scared of getting a poor result or whatever it might be, and they might inflate their stock a little bit. For an operator's point of view, obviously when you've got multiple sites, it's very hard to manage. Is there a way of... Is that one of the ways of cross-checking what's coming in versus... Is that more difficult to do these days, I suppose I'm asking?
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you're motivated... If lots of different team members are in on it and they're motivated, then you're only going to find it when somebody who's not part of that clique comes in and spots it. So there is ways to be able to fudge the numbers, but effectively, if you're running a good operation, so Dave goes in, does the count. So Chris, you're sitting there. You're the manager. Dave comes back with the count. You can look at that before you then submit it, and you can see. Oh wait, there's something wrong here. I'm not going to tell him what it is. But I'm going to say he just needs to do like the walk-in or the dry store or whatever it is, wherever you found the problem. You just say, look, go count that again, or give it to somebody else to count, and then you get, then you can say, oh, there we are. It's a consistent problem, so I need to go and find out what it is, or there was a mistake there, and it is what I thought it is. We haven't got 3 million eggs.
Often a visual check will do, right?
Exactly. Well, when it gets to that sort of level,
you really don't have 3 million eggs. If you do, that'd be weird. And you talk about do you have analytics then that sits across over this business then, so over each site as it would be, so you can read the POS data, you can read obviously the inventory data getting pulled in, and then we were going to talk about this or we're not, but we're going to pull in labor data from your payroll system, or labor we can talk about. Let me just answer the inventory first. So with that you've got reporting and analytics that are on a mobile app, so things that are key for the restaurant to manage. So if they want to have a quick look at their AVT, food costs, there are a few snapshots that they can see, but the reporting and analytics that is available from the senior leadership level and the field team is much more detailed and quite bespoke. In fact, we do have a solution called BizIQ that sits across all of that data and even more, and can be really, really tailored. So it can be manipulated to get what I want the operator from.
Exactly. I mean, but the thing is, I haven't seen it deployed an awful lot. Like, there's so much reporting in the standard instance that anything that you would want to run from a cost management perspective and a profitability perspective,
it's already there.
It's there. Yeah, it's already there.
I think it's unique that you've got that. Obviously, you've got it on the app, which is obviously for the people on the move, the deskless people who are kind of running in and out the storerooms, cooking, cleaning, selling beer or whatever it might be, and then you've got that kind of overview from the bird's eye view, I suppose, from the senior team who can sit there and look at an estate, I suppose, on an analytical basis.
Yeah, but it does give you the ability to go right down into the individual location. So if you can see a problem at Brighton, then you can drill in and you can really tear it apart and have a look at it, because you don't want your front of house staff doing an awful lot, which is why the mobile one is it's not bespoke. You can't just layer in 17,000 reports, because nobody's going to be looking at it. So I think it is custom in terms of what bits you can have, but I think that's determined at rollout. So when we do the implementation and we push it out, it's decided what goes there. The only other things that are flexible that you can tweak are things like again going back to the count, the shelf to sheet. So like one store might not be laid out like another store, which is more likely the case because of the size differences. And you want to make sure you simplify that count, because the last thing you need is reams of paper. And then trying to look for...
Nobody wants paper anymore.
No. Well, I mean, yeah.
Saying that, actually, I was on a call yesterday. We do these tech stack reviews for customers, so they'll come along with their current stack. It might just be a POS and workforce, or it might be 20 items, and they come to us and we kind of do a non-judgmental review of it. So we kind of go through it and review it. And yesterday I was talking to a lady up in Sheffield who's got a restaurant that does about 2 million quid a year, and she had paper everywhere. I shouldn't be shocked, I suppose, because I know it's still a thing. And she told me she's the problem. As in, I'm not being rude, but she wants. She said to me, "I know I'm backwards. I know I'm not with the grain." She said, but actually, particularly in reservations, she said it drives me mad that I can't. We've only got one site. We don't need to make this complicated. We just need a book with our bookings in. I don't know. And I kind of see her point a little bit. When you're looking at a single site, and if you've been in the biz for 20 years like she has, she kind of knows where she operates. So I think sometimes we're looking for opportunities that people don't want. But I think she is in the minority now, and I think there is a massive move to... and automating all these things that we don't want to do.
The thing is that the key difference there, and you actually highlighted it, is that she's been in this business 20 years. Yeah. She knows it,
which is rare, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, it's rare to be 20 years and just still only have one location.
Yeah. Well, I don't think does she own it? I can't remember. I don't know. But 20 years as a general manager, I think. Right. And you meet these people, right, when you're doing, even in my career, you do GMs, so life for GMs, I used to call them. They come in and they want to be a GM. They don't want to be an area manager. They got no aspirational. They look at us and think, when I was an area manager, they think, God, I don't want to be him. He looks sad. So they just want to be a general manager, right? And they spend a lot of time. And these guys are some of the biggest influencers in tech, because they move sites and they take with them.
It does that.
They move sites and they take with them their tech, right? So they'll go to the next site. Say they have CrunchTime in their one site. They might get a new job and go to another one. They say, "Oh, we use CrunchTime. It's much better. Use that." And they're kind of like secret salespeople, because they go around influencing their next site they go in. But yeah, GMs are a huge opportunity for tech people, I think, because they're the ones that touch the tech. They're the ones that use it.
Yeah, they are. It depends on how influential they are when they move.
When it goes up the tree as well.
I mean, obviously that scenario, if they're moving up the chain from a GM to a more senior ops role, then they carry more weight.
Yeah.
We saw this massively in the Middle East. So like my territory is really, it's UK, Europe, and the Middle East. And
it makes me laugh when people say that.
Yeah. Do you know what?
How often are you in the Middle East?
Do you know what? I've sold more in the Middle East than I have in the UK.
Which part of the Middle East are you or which bit is really?
Mostly.
Yeah, Saudi's really interesting, isn't it? Someone was telling me the other day that actually, from a technological standpoint, not just in hospitality but the country is. I think the government have invested.
Do you know what?
Yeah, insane.
I was stood in Jeddah Airport on the way home, which is quite an empty place.
Right.
I'd been to Riyadh as well, and that wasn't particularly busy. Like compared to our airports. And as I was waiting, I was killing time reading some news, and I was reading some news about the fact that they are building the biggest airport on the planet in Riyadh, and I'm sat in Jeddah. I'm like,
why?
It's like tumbleweed. I'm like, what? But
they look down the road, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
They know.
I think that's what it is, and the rate of growth over there is phenomenal.
I think what's interesting is the infrastructure they're building, and we're off topic here totally, but it's interesting because and I say this because we did a survey recently, and 96% of operators we surveyed, and we did about 150 senior people said that they buy tech as and when is needed, which shocked me, right? Because I obviously I believe this because I run Tech on Toast, but I believe that you should be planning and plotting, against your budget, against your forecast, how your technology should then support that revenue drive or that cost saving. And I don't believe that's always done on the same tech. I think that actually at some point you're going to have to grow, change, edit, buy another feature, whatever it might be, buy biz IQ. Yeah, but do you know what I mean? But as you're growing, you need to keep that front of mind. And it shocked me, that stat. And I think that the way that they're building their country is very much around infrastructure, looking down the road, knowing over the next 10 years, 20 years, that actually they're going to become they're already a destination, but it's going to grow even more, partly because of the macro problems that's going on around the world right now and all that kind of stuff. So it's sensible. And I sometimes I look at our industry and I think about how we prep and how we plan. And I still think we're miles behind in terms of looking at how not everybody, it's a sweeping statement, I know, but a lot of businesses just don't have time to look at technology properly, or don't have time to adopt what they've already bought, or get the most out of it, or sweat it as it would be.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very different. Like the landscape here in the UK, from a tech perspective, very tech forward, been like that for quite some time. But in Saudi, they're playing catch up, but they're much more open to new ideas, salespeople.
Do you think it's because it's new? Because
I think it is because they know that they need to. Yeah. They know they need to catch up. We also had, CrunchTime in particular had quite a benefit there, getting in early with two very large groups, Al Shire and Americana.
Right.
And the people in tech, much like you were talking about with the GMs, the people in tech that were involved in those groups have now been poached by startups that are rapidly scaling, and then they have carried CrunchTime into these other groups that are like own brands. So the spread over there has been for very fortuitous, but a little bit like your GMs.
Yeah, but if it wasn't good, they wouldn't take it, right? So
yes,
and I think sometimes the relationship side of technology, which I find super interesting, because if you're an invested tech company, you've got to go, right? Sell, hire, you know how it goes. And that's not saying it's a bad product, but it's a different way of, then you've got your bootstrap companies that seem to hone in on relationships a lot more, spend a lot of time with long customers, 5 to 10 years, some of these guys that stick together. And I think that way, for me, as everything grows and gets bigger, is one of the only ways to grow. I think this cut and run type mentality where you're selling something and then the next day you're on to the next one. I know that's the nature of sales, but I think the customer care side and support side, I think, has been lacking in a lot of products in the UK. And I think our customers will tell us in their top 2 issues of buying technology or changing technology is around support. They really struggle with what's available, and they're like, they're time poor. They want to do something now. So if something breaks, they need a response now, and they're getting frustrated with bots and all the other kind of stuff that's managing their support time. How are you guys managing support? Because it is a key feature more and more when people are buying signal for when people want to buy.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we had a big kind of sales kickoff at the beginning of the year, and that one of the big leads was how they're changing customer service and customer service management, and they've got these metrics that they keep on our customers to see how they're actually deploying the full strength of the software. Because this is the biggest problem. I mean, take our inventory, which is our biggest product. There's so much in there, you couldn't possibly
What percentage would you say are they adopting it?
Oh, I mean, the thing is, some people are using a lot.
It's like my sweeping statement before, I know.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, I haven't dove into that, but I'm literally talking to a group that we have just closed in the Middle East, and they're going through implementation, and they've done the heavy lifting now, and it's literally just onto the training aspect. So they're doing a train the trainer, and I had to kind of intervene to explain to them the importance of this, and that you paid for this. You now want value. So the software isn't going to do it on its own. No. If your people don't know how to operate it, then you've spent all this money, and it's just not going to give you the value that we talked about. That's got you to this.
And that's the bit that baffles me, right? Because the salespeople on the front end who are saying, look, this is what we do, this is our product, this is what the ROI will look like, this is how it'll work for you. And then they put it into the operator. Operator will 30%, 40% adopt it maybe. In the normal suspects, the best GMs will pick it up and run with it and really go for it. And then you'll have the other 20%, 30% sites that don't really connect. Maybe there's been a change in GM, maybe, whatever's going on is going on. It's hospitality. But it baffles me, because then you sit with this product that you're paying, as you say, you've paid for and paying for going forward, and you're not getting the results from it. And so I think there's a huge gap there. And I know why, because I've done it. I've bought tech in 100-site company and had to roll it out. It's very difficult, very challenging, because you have a lot of other stuff that's very important that day as well as rolling out your new tech.
Yeah.
And when you go down to the general manager level, their responsibilities and their priorities are different to mine. Unfortunately, and although you should be aligned somewhere in the middle of all that, I think they are different, right? Just depends what day is going on that day, on the training day or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think it's a huge challenge. I don't really see much change over the last year or so, because there's more tech, right? So more people are buying it, more people are implementing it. But it's super interesting, and I don't think it's anyone's fault. I just think it's the nature of our beast.
And I think it's about delivering something that's simple.
Yeah.
So the solutions are designed to be simple to operate from a from a location perspective.
Yeah.
But the complexity sits really at the senior leadership level. So there's two different, it's very distinct. You don't want something that is going to be difficult for people to get on with, that's going to be then deployed across 2,500 people, because then you really are in trouble.
Like, it almost feels painful.
Just thinking about it, because it's just that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you've got some complexity to what you're putting in the hands of most of your staff, you're dead in the water.
And what do you do do you do like an A/B test? Like when you're starting that rollout, will you encourage the operator to just maybe do it in one region or one site or whatever it might be?
So the implementation program takes you through a validation stage. So obviously you go through all the implementation phases, integration phases. Then you get to a point of validation. So you can pick, a few sites. I think we kind of roll into one, do a pre-test, and then roll into maybe 5, 10. And then you fine-tune everything before you then start to, just roll out. And then that really depends on, like the ferocity of how fast they want to deliver it. We're working with a group in Australia. I won't say who they are, but they want to roll out to 250 locations in, I think it might be something like 6 weeks. And my team were like, we've never seen this level of aggression.
Then again, I know another Australian company, a big restaurant chain, that rolled out a POS company, Red Cat.
I know Red Cat.
Yeah, and they did it in a similar time, similar amount of locations. So, and I'm not saying I'm not comparing, but I'm just wondering if the operator wants to do that or has that passion to do it, then maybe it could happen because you don't know internally, maybe they're prepped for that. I don't know how simple their business is, how simple their operations are, but that's half the battle, right? Wanting them to want to do that.
Yeah, it's great that they do.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
We'll have you back on in a few months, and you can tell me.
But yeah, I can only really go on what the implementation team to tell me, and like when they told me that it was going on in that time, I didn't really have a frame of reference. But then when they said, we've never seen that before, I was like, oh.
Yeah, 6 weeks is rare, right? For 250 sites, that's crazy. Because so many things can happen.
It sounded fast to me.
Yeah, I'm doing a new website. That's taken 6 months. Oh, God, and I'm building it up to be something amazing. I'm sure it will be. Anyway, and on the back, what are the big benefits, I suppose, that people are getting from? We've talked a little bit about them, but there's two things here. When you walk into a pitch, or what kind of problems they're facing that you're solving, and then secondary, after they've been with you a while, what kind of success are they having? So
I think the two core focuses for certainly for inventory are cost. So they're looking at they've got a difference between their actual versus theoretical. Their food costs are higher than they would like, and the flip side to that, or not the flip side, but the other side to that is efficiency. So, you talk about paper as a surprise, but, I was talking to a group here in the UK and they are still printing off their count sheets.
Yeah, I think in inventory, it's not much of a surprise, actually. I think when I was talking about, scheduling and, day-to-day stuff is a bit more rare now. But scheduling's taken, I would say, 15 years from people doing digital schedules to still discovering people on paper. And I think inventory's way behind that. I think it's because people feel like the physicality of counting something, the physicality of going in a room and counting, a fridge or freezer.
But it's absolutely crazy. I mean,
we know this.
Yeah.
I was one of those people who stood in the freezer for 10 years. But yeah, I think it's not. It feels normal to pick up a pen and paper, or it did, to go in the fridge, go in the freezer, do the count, go behind the bar, because often you're in weird places counting. It's not like it's all shiny, it's all lined up, all perfectly, all labeled. It should be, but it's not. The reality is, a lot of these venues have nooks and crannies where they shove stock. So I think that's where that's born from. But I know now, obviously, there's tablets you can count, iPads, you can do the checking in, checking out, checking against various. But theoretical, we used to do something called a spot count after that. So once you'd had a variance, you then put 2 or 3 items on like a hot count, we used to call it, for like a week, where we'd double check that those items weren't going anywhere they shouldn't be. But yeah, no, I think paper seems to be more common. And someone told me about inventory that you have to want to do inventory to want to do it. Does that make sense? As in, there has to be a passion behind, because the products...
Oh, if you actually want to get it right.
Because the product is vast, right? As in the amount of variations you can get from a stock just on its own. That's why they employ these people who come in and count it for you and stuff, like accountants and whatnot. So I think you have to really be passionate about getting your numbers right in inventory. And that's not just you, the leader, everybody who's involved.
There's layers of complexity. I mean, you can have items that are in 3 different locations, so you have to kind of count them. And what do you do if you've got it on paper? You've got the one entry, and you go to one place, count it, and then you have to remember to count it in another place, and then in a third place, and then on top of that, layered in more complexity is the unit of measure. So I've got the single item, I've got the box, and then I've got a cassette of these things. So you've got all these different ways of counting it. And that is what we tend to see, where we see the most mistakes, is that they're trying to do some mental arithmetic while they're doing the counting. They get it wrong, and you end up with 3 million eggs.
The 3 million eggs things won't go away. And I think, so when you go in then, so you're facing that problem. Generally, the people, I mean, it's obvious, right, that people are facing a cost issue, or they're not where they want to be or where they thought they would be. And then there might be some logistical issues behind that in terms of whether on paper or whether they're using a clunkier older system or whatever it might be. And then, so you've gone in, you've put CrunchTime in, we've rolled out in 6 weeks. But then after that, what kind of success, how quickly can they see success, I suppose? I'm sure this is how long is a piece of string type answer, but if they're embedding and adopting correctly and everything's going smoothly, how quickly can they see some of this? Or is it more about making them aware of the miss rather than actually fixing it for them?
I mean, this is another interesting one, because I always say, well, you can buy CrunchTime, but it's not going to fix your problem. What it's going to do is it's going to open up the doors for you to be able to spot where the problems are and then fix them. Yeah. And it's that bringing that visibility and doing it in such a way that it becomes quite simple to then spot. And like we were talking about earlier about trying to elevate all your locations to your best location, that's essentially what we're doing. You then have it's just like a single pane of glass across all your locations and their inventory, and you can see, okay, so these guys are operating really well, but I can see we've got massive variances here. And you could see from a like a bird's eye view that there is variance. You could actually drill down and find, it's actually chicken. So we're burning through like loads of chicken. What is going? And then you can then you do. That's when you need human intervention. So your
Operation Chicken then becomes a thing.
That's right.
No, but in Prime Minister, we used to name it after Only Fools and Horses characters. So every time we had this is not a joke, we had Operation Rodney, Operation Del Boy. We had all kinds of different things when we really wanted to focus the team on a particular problem. We'd make it fun. It was part of the brand, right? We'd make it fun. So so butter became Operation Rodney, where we went on a mission to reduce the cost of butter in our recipes. And I think it's the same for for what you're talking about there, that when you've made the product makes them aware of this issue, which in their gut they may know, right? They may have an inkling, and good operators do, right? They kind of think, I know what that is, but you can't prove it. You can't sit in a boardroom and say, this is exactly what it is. But I presume your product gives you that ability to quantify the depth of the problem and then go into action.
Yeah, you can see the problem, and you can drill down to exactly what it is. And there's an example of this that I remember some people talking about it internally. Is there was a salad concept that all of a sudden their lettuce usage was went through the roof. Like, I don't know if it was like 6 times what it should have been, but there was definitely something wrong. But they could only see, they couldn't just see a variance. They could drill down and see, it's lettuce. What the hell's going on? And then they realised that the packaging for the display of the salad had changed, and the bowl had become deeper. And to fill the bowl to present the rest of the salad on top of it, they put in loads more lettuce.
And obviously, because the chef is visual, right?
Yeah.
And although they have a recipe to follow, they've probably followed the recipe and went, I'm not putting that out.
Yeah.
Because that looks like a leaf in a bowl.
Yeah.
But no, and I think those examples, I'm sure there are hundreds of them, right, where people have strayed from recipe or strayed from, or the supplier has strayed from packaging without informing, or the information hasn't reached the correct people, and then all of that it's all little dominoes, isn't it, that knock onto this effect of like decreasing your margin, and people not discovering that becomes super expensive. And someone said to me the other day, we were talking about labor and food. It's nearly 55% of your overall cost of your business. If you put it together, like depending where labor's getting up there now to the high 20s,
talk about that.
So do you know what I mean? But so if you think about it, you're looking at around, I don't know, am I right? 50-55% potentially of your business, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And not to concentrate on that, or not to focus on that as an operator, not to make that, it's very hard, because when I was a leader in ops, you want to focus on costs and control, but you also can't make their life about that, the general managers, because why, what's the fun in that? Why would you come in every day just have me, the bald guy, moan about my costs every day? So it's about making it about service, about efficiency, about operations, about excellence, and then using product like yours to really bring that to the surface and say, look, guys, you're doing a great job, but this is what's happening here. And that's super tough to do. It's very difficult, and I think that everybody should be focusing on costs. I'm preaching to the converted, right? I'm guessing most people are looking at their labour with binoculars right now.
Yeah, especially heading into April for the UK anyway.
Yeah, it
must be. Yeah, I remember when the budget was announced, and I was like, oh no, this look, and then the immediate reaction from the hospitality sector, and I massive sympathy. Hopefully the backlash has been such that I don't think the government are going to step their foot in there again, but they're not going to roll back. I can't see them rolling back, but I don't think they're going to attack the sector again. Not for a long time.
Not for a week anyway.
Well, God.
But no, it's true. And that's why I think products like CrunchTime, where you've got that opportunity to really kind of just bring, as I said, bring these things to the surface. Stop burying your head in the sand, and because obviously there's a worry sometimes and you can't see it, and it's just when you can visibly see these problems through analytics or through data, whatever it might be, all of a sudden I always find if you shine a light on a problem, it gets easier. So if and obviously there might be 25 variances, right? But go for your biggest winner and say, where's the low-hanging fruit here? Where can we literally make an impact across all these states? And you feel so much better when you see all of a sudden all the sites coming into line, like you said, all coming up to the level of number one site, going, okay, all of a sudden we're getting this purple patch. And obviously when that happens, something else drops somewhere else, but that's fine. But you just keep moving through it, and I just don't.
As long as you can catch it.
Yeah, I just don't know if you can do that anymore without tech. I don't know.
I don't think you can, not at scale anyway.
No.
I mean, back to that, the 20 years in one location, they've probably got a feel for it. They can spot it. But when you've got 200 locations, there's not absolutely no hope.
There's no chance.
I know that like these leaders are confident in their chefs and their general managers, but when you've got 200 locations, you can't, and you're scaling, you can't be sure that everybody's doing it.
And I can tell you from personal experience, they're not. And it's not about not wanting to do it, or it's often about training. It's often about poor execution. It's often about over promotion, especially in the market we're in. So a lot of people step up quicker than they used to. So there's all of those factors that sit underneath people making mistakes. And also we're human. So we're going to make mistakes in terms of counting and, all the other stuff and making dishes. I mean, there's recipe cards coming out of people's ears because they're trying to control that, but it's never going to work without, or it's never going to be measured properly unless you have the metrics in some data to pull. Anyway, I think I've made my point. I'm preaching now. But anyway, what do you think? What do you think about? And we've just mentioned April. Let's not talk about that anymore. No. But what do you think about the future? You're 2 years into the hospitality tech world. What are you seeing down the road, kind of thing, for tech? Obviously, AI is a bit of a buzzword. I'm going to say it before you do. So, what else do you see kind of floating about? AI is probably already in your product, but is there anything else you'll use with that?
AI is really interesting. So we launched AI into inventory and labor last year, and we've already literally just last week there was 2 quite big announcements. One was the AI weather impact has now been built into the AI layer. And the other one was a mobile app. So we had something for counting, something for reconciling, and something called impact. And we pulled those into one. But in terms of the future, I mean, AI is, you're right, it's a massive buzzword. I can't help, when I hear about AI in restaurant tech, I can't help but remember, and only as soon as last year, McDonald's pulling away from their trial for their drive-through in June.
Yeah.
And then Burger King saying that they're going to be trialing it, or they were trialing it in November. I don't know how that's been going. I'm assuming that the thing is, though, it does move so fast that between June and November, it could have developed to the point where it's working.
I think the obvious thing is that it's not going away, right? As in the
definitely
the
not.
use cases may change, as you say, depending where you apply it.
I think from a number crunching and making sense of numbers, I mean, why wouldn't you use AI? I mean, it's his most powerful.
I was at a parents' evening last night, one of my youngest parents' evening, and I remember they'd banned ChatGPT from all their laptops. They all have the Google Chromebooks, and they'd banned it all because they thought these kids were cheating. And I was talking to his teacher last night, and he went, "Yeah, we're using ChatGPT now to generate images for them." I just knew it's just they're going to. I know they'll have to police it because you could literally sit your GCSEs through it probably, but I think it's
they've got software that
no one types anymore. No one writes anymore, and it's a bit sad. But the reality is, like he was telling me, that handwriting generally across the COVID group, the group that missed school for the early years, who missed that first couple of years, handwriting is shocking, and they can't get it back. They're really struggling to get it back. And he said, but the reality is, a lot of these people will never write again.
No.
They'll just type on their phone, on their laptop, whatever it might be, on their TV. They'll voice notes. So it just shows how things are changing, and I think AI is obviously in all of those products, in all of those bits we're talking about. So there's definitely change coming, but it's kind of exciting. I like it. I think I'm always up for opportunity. I always see everything as an opportunity.
Yeah, and it is great, and like some of the automation that we're seeing in the kitchen. I was thinking about this on my way in, as long as I don't get a robot that actually comes and serves me when I'm sat down, and then of course I was thinking, well, when I go to Nando's, I'm just ordering it on my phone. So, I haven't actually got a robot that's coming up to me.
You're the robot.
I am the robot, yeah.
No, I think the whole thing, like the QR codes like McDonald, right, made a comeback a few times. And I think it's interesting now that I think the biggest thing that come out of all of that is choice, that people want to give their customers choice if they pay, how they order, how they collect, whatever it might be. And I think it's the same what you guys are doing in a way. You're giving people the opportunity to look at their numbers in a different way. Quick access on their phone or quick access on a desktop, where they can really establish the issues they're having and fix them. And I think that you can only take the horse to water, so far to water, right? And then to make them drink, I think that's the operator's prerogative. But I think they are right. I think they're super interested.
Oh yeah.
The noise I'm hearing is they're super interested in fixing it. Of course they are. They want to run great businesses, so it makes sense. Right. I'm now rabbiting. So I'm going to say. So look, Eric, what's the best way if people want to find out more about CrunchTime and talk to you in a bit more detail about the product and what you can do for them? How can they find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn. We've already spoken about my name. It's quite unique. So.
Yeah, TIV.
I'm the only one. I'm the only Tiv. My son's just about to sort of sign up for LinkedIn, but I don't think there's many Tivs in the UK.
He's going to take 50% of your originals. So on LinkedIn, they can get you. What about the CrunchTime website?
Yeah, so CrunchTime.com. So they can find out a whole host of stuff there. There's all the news releases, everything that we've done in the past. And a lot of material on the website.
Perfect. And I didn't ask you at the start. I need to ask you. Do you know why the name is CrunchTime? Is there a story behind it?
I don't know. I do know that as a group we got together and we were in London and we had to go out. It was like a treasure hunt thing.
Right.
We were trying to make people say, "I love CrunchTime." And so we were literally in Leicester Square and around that area.
I feel like this went badly.
Groups of us. And as I was walking away from this group, they were discussing what they thought CrunchTime was. And they were convinced that we were a breakfast cereal.
Sounds like a bad
more
episode
sense.
from The Apprentice.
Yeah, it was.
What do you think CrunchTime means?
But yeah, I don't know that.
I mean, I'm guessing it's the point of decision, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, it is. You know, in the restaurant, it is crunch time.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose crunch being related to eating, it's kind of, you know, you could see a kind of connection.
Yeah, ask a stupid question, I suppose. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Look, very nice to meet you. Where are you heading back to now? Are you back up the road, or are you staying in London for the day?
Yeah, no, I think well, seeing this place was great. I think I might have something to eat here, and then I've got to get back. I've got meetings.
You can have a go on the slide if you wish. Just
I saw the slide. Yeah.
yeah. There's bowling behind me here. It's very quiet today. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm just early. I don't know. But anyway, look, thank you very much for joining us. That was Eric Tiv from CrunchTime, everybody. You can find him on crunchtime.com, on the marketplace, or you can chase him on LinkedIn, where he's spending most of his time now with his son. Right, very good. Have a lovely week all, and I shall speak to you soon. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.